Very much. I'm San Diego City Council President Pro Tem Sherry Leitner. I represent District 1, which includes the community of La Jolla. I'd like to thank all of the District 1 residents who are here today to speak on this very important issue. I have submitted a letter, as have council members Sherman, Kersey, and Harris, and former council member Mathis, who represented this district, in adamant opposition to the proposal today. Those letters are in your backup. The debate over the use of the La Jolla Children's Pool has been an ongoing issue in my community for nearly 2 decades. Seals and humans have long been able to peacefully coexist and share this beach. Unfortunately, we continue to have a people problem with a handful of passionate people on both sides. The La Jolla Community Planning Association, the La Jolla Town Council, and the La Jolla Parks and Beaches Committee have all consistently supported shared use of the Children's Pool Beach, as has the San Diego City Council. The community has never supported a seasonal beach closure and is not in favor of this proposed amendment to the Community Plan Local Coastal Program. They firmly believe the beach should remain open as a public access year-round. I respectfully urge you to grant the community's request to deny the La Jolla Community Plan Local Coastal Program amendment to seasonally close the beach. The Children's Pool has provided public physical access to the ocean for nearly a century. It is premature to permanently close this beach. In July 2012, the Coastal Commission approved a coastal development permit for a year-round barrier on the beach. That permit requires a 3-year period of detailed monitoring and data collection to determine the impacts the rope has actually had on reducing conflicts at the children's pool. After the 3-year period ends next summer, we need to evaluate the data before taking any additional action. Closing a public beach, especially to accommodate marine mammals that are not threatened or endangered, is a very dangerous and unusual precedent. The California harbor seal population has increased statewide over the last 20 years. This increase has also been evident at the children's pool, despite shared use of the beach. It is important to note that harbor seals are not listed as endangered or threatened under the Endangered Species Act. They are also not considered depleted under the Marine Mammal Protection Act. Additionally, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration stated in a January 2014 letter to the city, the ideal solution at this location is one of shared use with no unnecessary restrictions placed on the beach or ocean users. I also note that NOAA gives the same status and designation to the California sea lion stock as it does to the California harbor seal stock. We have hundreds of sea lions who haul out daily at La Jolla Cove, less than half a mile away. Is the next step to approve additional beach closures for sea lions? The proposed amendment and precedent-setting elimination of a long-standing public physical access is unwarranted and is regulatory overkill. The continued shared use policy can better achieve all the goals of the Coastal Act in providing public access to the beach and ocean while also keeping both seals and people safe. I ask the commissioners to please respect the local community, the Coastal Act, and the federal government. Closing this beach is not a fact-based, data-driven decision, and we have no idea what long-term unintended consequences might result from this ill-conceived proposal.
Thank you.
I urge you to please deny. the proposal before you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the additional time, sir.
Good morning, everybody. Coming down today, it's my pleasure to speak in front of you. I want to give you a background that I've been at the children's pool as a lifeguard on and off over the last 20 years. And during the most controversial times, I was a lifeguard there for the last 7 years. I only left recently to take the current position that I'm in. As a coastal representative, along with Sherry Leitner, I'm very in tune with the ocean. Some of the slides I want to point out in the staff recommendations talks about everything north of the children's pool. It doesn't talk about the rookeries at the Coronado Islands, which are quite large, which are 14 miles off the tip of Point Loma, isolated, protected. It doesn't talk about the fact that we have a large group of these harbor seals at the Sunset Cliffs areas as well. I'm not certain if that's classified as a rookery or not, but there is a large amount of them down there. Some of the photos, in particular photo number 12 that staff showed us up here, was actually South Casa, which is directly across from the children's pool where we saw 19 births of seal pups last year and 25 the year before. So that's South Casa. That's not the children's pool, and why that was used in here, I don't know. But that is our concern, is the precedent that this sets. I wrote a plan, and Chris, I appreciate that you have stated that the city has reached out and asked questions on the Harris plan or the lifeguard plan. But the only question that I've been asked is, what should we name it? The Harris plan or the lifeguard plan? I wrote that plan when I was working at the children's pool, interacting with everybody. I can honestly say I have probably the most knowledge of day-to-day activity there than most. I wrote that plan as a compromise. The plan has not been evaluated by the city, and I'm only steps away from the city for the last 4 months in which nobody came over to ask me about the plan or how that could be implemented, which I find odd, especially that there's a statement that they have asked questions about it. Furthermore, the pollution issue, I think you hit it right on the head. What you're doing by doing this is you're closing the children's pool year-round, and that's the precedent we're setting. The fact, and I have it in my plan, if you didn't pick up the feces from a dog park for the last 20 years or 10 years, you can imagine what your dog park would look like. That is the children's pool. You have blocked access because that is a man-made pool, and it's the only one that I know of as a lifeguard in Southern California that doesn't get flushed on the north swell, the south swell, or the west swell. You're here, and this policy is here because people are fatigued. And when they get fatigued, they pass bad policy. That's not a reason to pass bad policy. This needs to go back to City Council. We need to go back, and we need to do the work. And we need to do things like simply scraping 2 or 3 feet annually off the sand, putting it back over the west wall, letting it get cleaned. That's the only beach that doesn't move 8 to 14 feet of sand every season. So what is the plan to allow it a complete closure and then open it up for the children to play with the feces when they come in the summertime? Closing the beach, 75% of it protects the seals, allowing access. The city passed an ordinance to keep dogs off of the beach. We can pass an ordinance with a simple rope line. Doesn't have to be the boulders that I put into my plan because it was aesthetically better. A simple rope and an ordinance not allowing people in that 75% of space. Allows access still and protects the seals. Nobody can go in there. There's people watching that all day long. They would be kept out of there. In the summertime, the seals still come up in the summertime. There's still interaction. Move that next to the wall and block off 25% of the beach to allow the seals to haul out. Lesser numbers at that time. It would allow them to come up and rest in the evening time, which they deserve. Again, an ordinance would do that. Thank you for your time and taking on this subject.
My name is Ken Hunricks. I'm the president of the Friends of the Children's Pool. I'm a lifelong resident of San Diego. The city of San Diego has been a bad steward for the children's pool. They've broken their promise to the people of San Diego and let this pool go to ruin. This is a trusted coastal resource, and they've let it go to ruin in the name of wildlife protection, or so-called wildlife protection. By doing so, they've endangered human lives by driving the public off this protected and sheltered beach. Next slide, please. So what are we asking you to do? First, reject the LCP and CDP applications. They both conflict with existing law, state and federal. Allow year-round shared use to work, and it's not being allowed to work if you take this plan, require better management by the trustee of this pool, the City of San Diego, within existing law. Next slide, please. Why this is important. The Children's Pool Trust is a state statute that was written in 1931 when the wall was built. It had specific uses and protections for the uses in the pool, that being a bathing pool for children. It's essentially a children's playground. Beach and fishing access is protected as a protected right in California. Public safety demands this beach remain open year-round. The proposed LCP amendment carves an unjustified exception out of the Coastal Act. It's no longer a local coastal plan since it's the demand of one special interest group with the City of San Diego acting as its agent. They've disregarded the law and the strong opposition from the local community. Next slide, please. San Diego must solve its problems within existing state and federal laws and within the goals and policies of the Coastal Act. The city's hardline stance against compromise or shared use could leave it only one legal option to separate people from seals, and that's Marine Mammal Protection Act, Section 109H, which allows them to deal with a nuisance and abate it. Next slide, please. Of all the seal areas compared to the children's pool in the staff report, children's pool is unique in its legal status in the Tidelands Trust, its location in a densely populated urban area and dedicated, established use by dedicated user groups. Compare these two locations. Children's pool is on the left, sheltered behind a man-made concrete seawall designed to protect us from the forces of nature. On the right is a deserted beach along the wilds of the Del Monte Forest near Carmel. It's like comparing Central Park in New York City to the wilds and wilderness of Yosemite. There's no comparison. And this comparison is repeated throughout the staff report. Of all those 17 areas you hear about in the staff report that are unprotected or are protected compared to this unprotected beach, there's no other beach like this in California. This is a man-made beach. It sits behind a concrete seawall. Next slide, please. There is a danger in the limited standard of review in the staff report because it obscures clear coastal access mandates. Without a proper analysis of all the applicable law, a legally defective project could slip through in conflict with the absolute right of coastal access for fishing. That's repeated in the Children's Pool Trust, and it's in our Constitution. The plain language of the Children's Pool Trust, the constitutional basis for coastal access in the Coastal Act. The Commission cannot knowingly ignore these violations or it becomes a party to those violations. Next slide, please. This is the basis of the Coastal Act. It's the California Constitution protecting our right to access the ocean. You've seen it, you work with it every day, but it's very important to what we're talking about here today. Next slide. The legislative intent in the Constitution and throughout the Coastal Act protects our right when a politically motivated project threatens to block coastal access. The preservation of resources accompanies that right in order to enhance public access and not to eliminate it. Access for fishing is required in the Children's Pool Trust, and the city has never found a legal way to circumvent that right. The Seal Reserve project conflicts with state and federal statutes that were ignored in the staff report, requiring indemnification, and I'm not certain if that is still in one of the special conditions or not. It wasn't mentioned during the staff report. It was originally a condition of indemnification the city was to provide, but this only points to evidence of known liabilities and defects in this plan, legal liabilities. There is no basis in law or science for the City of San Diego to continue mismanaging the seals to become even more dependent on human intervention. This beach closure plan does just that. Next slide, please. The coastal staff rejected ESHA designation at Children's Pool last fall because of these 4 site conditions: close proximity to an urban area, required joint use management strategy, beach is easily accessible to the public, and the beach has many dedicated user groups. Those conditions still apply today. Nothing has changed. These same conditions, though, diminish the application of the far less compelling Section 3230, which is being used as justification. When local staff rejected the use of an ESHA, they provided Section 3230 in its place directly. This section lacks the weight and significance of an ESHA designation, yet is being claimed as justification to close this beach. It does not compel the action proposed by the city. This CDP would set a bad precedent for predictable demands to close more beaches in San Diego, Pacific Grove, or your own local community, as seal problems increase throughout the state from their rebounding population. Next slide, please. Section 3230 was accepted by the city at the direction of the local coastal staff. It sort of became a pet project of the coastal staff, it appears, and they're very much in favor of pushing this. The relationship and significance of Section 3230 is inadequate when compared to all access protection sections found in the Coastal Act. And this is a slide kind of demonstrating the balance of access protection and the resource protection in this particular case. Recognizing potential conflict in the Coastal Act, the legislature declared in Section 30,007.5 that conflicts be resolved in a manner which on balance are the most protective of significant coastal resources. In this context, broader access and human safety policies are more significant overall than specific wildlife habitat and other similar resource policies such as 3230. Public safety must be paramount in any discussion of beach closure where human lives are protected by a seawall providing safe and convenient ocean access. That extra measure of safety was designed into the children's pool and is the most significant coastal resource at this location. It must be given priority under the analysis required under Section 30,007.5. Children's Pool is unique and has a higher value well beyond the insignificant habitat for an animal that is thriving along our coast. Next slide, please. This is a sighting of a UFO versus the state of Hawaii, a 10-year-old federal case, where the state of Hawaii was found in violation of the Marine Mammal Protection Act during a lawsuit. A special act of Congress was required to allow Hawaii to enforce state law restricting parasailing to protect endangered whales. The city of San Diego wants the Coastal Commission to provide a shortcut around that congressional act. Without congressional intervention, which didn't occur until after the fact of this lawsuit, this UFO shooting versus the state of Hawaii, the state of Hawaii was not allowed to further restrict boating in a marine reserve beyond existing federal law because of Marine Mammal Protection Act Section 109A. NOAA has advised the city and the Coastal Commission that enforcement of any law concerning the take of marine mammals is itself a violation of the Marine Mammal Protection Act, again, 109A. They also recommended against the closure of Children's Pool. NOAA, the agency responsible for managing marine mammals exclusively, recommended against beach closure. Next slide, please. The city rope barrier has stopped most of the vertical beach access to the water through deception and psychological deterrence. The city is back here again trying to take away the entire beach. Claims have been made of harm to seals with no proof of any harm caused by any human disturbance. It's an invalid claim that is part of the overly dramatic misinterpretation of the natural flight response of these animals. And these are the ranger's photos, part of his monitoring program. On the adjacent beaches pictured here, only Children's Pool does not have posted warnings of dangerous rip currents and rough conditions. Not a single person is seen at Children's Pool, which is the safest ocean swimming beach in the city of San Diego. This beach has been effectively closed with a rope barrier. It doesn't need to have anything more. It has pushed people to the surrounding beaches and puts them in unnecessary danger from well-known beach hazards. Next slide, please. The La Jolla beaches belong to the people of California, not to a municipal government or to special interest groups for a single purpose. It's clear the city really expected 100% closure when it asked for the barrier rope. And now they're coming back to take away the rest. This current proposal is just the next step towards year-round beach closure and more to surrounding beaches, unless you stop it here and stop it now. The city ranger duties have been so effectively limited by his employer that his efforts to better manage the beach have been reduced to keeping people standing behind the rope barrier and away from the shore. The city can do much better than that. Next slide, please. Forced beach closure by the city for federally managed harbor seals is illegal. Denial of access is not an allowed shortcut under the Coastal Act. Next slide. This project represents not only an amendment to the La Jolla LCP, but a complete betrayal by the City of San Diego to the values of public safety, environmental stewardship, and coastal access the community carefully expected in their own community plan.
Are you just about done?
I've got, one more paragraph or so.
Okay, please go
I've
ahead.
got a couple of extra minutes, I do believe. So, thank you. The claims of biological sensitivity of a thriving animal species is a Trojan horse to bypass the safeguards built into the LCP and the Coastal Act. Next slide, please. And final. The children's pool is a special place in the lives of hundreds of thousands of San Diegans who know and love this unique place. The city should be held to their obligation to protect and restore the pool for current and future generations. The value of this gift of ocean safety from the seawall donor in 1931, Ellen Browning Scripps, must be honored because nothing like this unique pool will ever be built again along the California coast. Above all, water safety and the protection of human lives is the highest priority. To approve this proposal that knowingly endangers human lives would be irresponsible. Please stop this short-sighted beach closure plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Cheryl Aspenleiter, and I come to you today representing the RAMP Committee. RAMP stands for To Restore Access to Many People. I would like to address the recent coastal report written by Ms. Sarb of the Coastal Commission. She states on page 3 that during the 5 months, there'll be limited impacts on public recreation and that nearby beaches are suitable for disabled access for swimming. This statement is so far from the truth. Can you stop that for just a minute? Thank you. This statement is so far from the truth that I think the author should be asked to resign for a complete lack of knowledge of her own coastline. These are the people right here, this right here, that I am representing. We have 185,000 amputations in our country every year. We have the largest population of limbless wounded warriors in San Diego, and 22 a day are committing suicide rather than face the terrors of their wounds. They ought to be able to come home from Iraq and Afghanistan and these wars that they're being sent to rehab any way they can, and yet they can't come home to their hometown of San Diego and go for a swim in the ocean. Okay, next slide, please. These are the people that I represent today. Next slide. Little kids, they'll never be able to look at a sea star or swim except for this pool. Next slide. This is a paraplegic challenged athlete at the children's pool. As you can see, there's no waves there. This is a pool. That's the difference between every other beach and this one. This is a pool without wave action. Can you stop the slide, please? Can you go back to the previous one? Oh, okay. It's not a slideshow? All right. I thought it was. It's my learning curve. Okay, in 1948, the ramp was to code, and it was the primary access. This was to code, to the disability codes in 1948. Next slide. It should be, you should be, okay. This is 1953, This is the primary access, and for maintenance, this is the only ramp on the map. This is only one. This was the ramp. There really was a ramp there, and it was really used as the primary access, and it really served wheelchairs for about 68 years. This is a well-maintained ramp, and a skip loader came down there and cleaned every Friday all the kelp off the beach. This is when a letter that the mayor ordered a permanent cement ramp to be upgraded in the end of '83. In 1984, in January, Parks and Rec agrees the ramp should be updated. Here's another one, 1984. The engineer informs that the ramp has to be brought to code and that it was used for maintenance. Here is an article in the Light saying that the funds for the ramp have been approved and transient occupancy tax will be used. 4 years goes by, nothing happens. Another article comes out talking about the children's pool ramp eroding, and it discusses that there are current wheelchair access problems. The ramp needs work. The ramp served wheelchairs. A nice ADA ramp fits well here, as you can imagine. There's plenty of room. Here's one design from an ADA architect that fits just fine. Here's another one, and my favorite one. It goes along the contours of the wall, as Mr. Savage would really have liked this one. South Casa is stairs, and it's very dangerous riptide. So disabled people can't go there. La Jolla Shores is a wide sandy beach, which is an obstacle, and surf are obstacles. Disabled people can maybe ride around on the beach. There's thousands of people. There's no wheelchairs in sight on any given day. You can ride around on a beach, but that doesn't get you swimming. That doesn't get you out through kayaks to get your head. A kayak hits you in the head, you're dead, not legs. You can't go to La Jolla Shores. It's a permitted kayaking staging area. That's dangerous. For the California Coastal Commission to recommend a dangerous area to swim is wrong. Here they are being carried up the cove, and 1 block south they can roll into their own pool for challenged athletes events. This is Boomer. This is a jump entry. Ms. Sarb said this was paralyzed people could do this. This is in her report. This is how you get in. Paralyzed people can't do this. You can't get a wheelchair near there. This is Shell Beach, the worst riptide in Southern California, and dangerous stairs. Wheelchair swimmers can't go there. Wheelchair swimmers can't go here. This is North Birdwalk. It's all stairs. Up and down the coast, there's no access for swimming. For swimming, we're talking about swimming, not just sitting there on the sand and looking at the ocean. Disabled people have the right to swim in the ocean. People with legs don't seem to understand this. The children's pool is the only place for a disabled ocean swimmer. Families can play and learn there. Water therapy is the best supportive therapy for disabled people. They can get out of the wheelchair. This is Susan Austin's scuba chair, and it would work perfectly in a restored children's pool. This is an example of a reef entry, an ocean entry from another country that cares. This is Sydney, Australia. They care. They have dozens of ocean pools, like children's pools, with lifts and ramps and everything. There's a ramp. Ramps fit in most places. There's one that fits in a real tight place. That's not as tight as children's pool. Plenty of room for an ADA ramp to the water for people to swim, for wounded warriors and challenged athletes to rehab. Here's 2 disabled people. That's me on the left and a paraplegic on the right. These are autistic children. I got this off the autistic website. They need a very calm place. I've worked with autistic children. Here's a very insulting sign that went up announcing an ADA ramp. That's only going to go to a viewing site. Swimming, historical swimming that Ellen built this pool for, will be blocked. There's a little boy with no legs playing in seal feces, and Judge Pate ordered that sand to be removed. That was a human health ruling. That wasn't just some ruling that you can throw in the trash. This is the urine and feces that's all over the beach. And now the tide pools are devoured and dead. You close this pool and you are responsible for creating a dead zone. It's already a dead zone. This is what our reefs used to look like. Now they're dead. You don't see sea stars, sea anemones, sea urchins. I'm a tide pool interpreter for Birch Aquarium. We feed our tide pools mussels. The California mussels are gone. I'll give anybody $100 to find one out there that's in a snorkelable range. This is the vision that we have for the children's pool. This is open those sluiceways, get everything clean. It'll be clean for the seals, clean for people. We can start restoring the ecology that is now a dead zone. The seals are going further and further out now to find food. Okay, what I'd like to read to you is, I sent into you, I don't know if you read them, I won't hold my breath that you read the things that I sent to you because it doesn't seem like you took anything into consideration that I sent to you. Because I sent to you the proof that the ramp was there, I sent to you the proof that the ramp served disabled people, and then I get back that it was only emergency vehicles. Emergency vehicles have never gone down there. They don't need to. It was for kelp, to pick up the kelp, and it was the primary access for human beings to go down there, including wheelchairs. The city of San Diego has arrogantly closed the children's pool after several of its having been neglected to the point of condemnation. It refuses to replace the ramp that will again allow disabled people the only protected ocean access in the San Diego or on the West Coast, in the face of statement of non-necessity from NOAA and clear recent evidence in Cape Cod, Massachusetts, that has increased the seal populations and increases shark presence. Have you seen Cape Cod? They're up to 30,000, 40,000 seals. Their fish stocks will never recover, and the stench is so bad you can smell it for 2 miles. Is that what you want? That's what Casa Manana has to do right now. Casa Manana has to close their windows to the seal stench and to the bacteria. Now, Centers for Disease Control testified in the O'Sullivan case. There can be tuberculosis, E. coli bacteria that can be airborne over to the people that are watching these seals, over to the neighbors. Is that what you want? I think an environmental impact report is needed before you close down anything. The beach was meant for children to learn to swim in a safe environment. It has now become the only safe and accessible entry point for disabled individuals to swim in the ocean. And it is the only disabled place. This is like, to me, tantamount to treason. By the time you go to sleep tonight, 22 more young disabled veterans will have killed themselves. When they could have come home and go for a swim in the ocean, they deserve that. They're fighting for your freedoms. I think you ought to allow them a swim in the ocean at the only place that they can swim at. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commission. Thank you for listening to us. I stand before you today on behalf of the 150 plus current San Diego Freedivers members, divers throughout the state and beyond. And out of respect also for the rich waterman traditions and diving history, as La Jolla is the birthplace of modern day diving. Yes, the world's first dive masks, fins, and so much more were developed right here in La Jolla. The children's pool is quite well documented throughout this history as well, but I digress. Please deny the local coastal plan amendment to annually close the children's pool during pumping season from December 15th to May 15th. This is a gross departure from the intent in which this seawall was built. It is no secret that this issue has gone on for about 20 years due to vague and conflicting laws. The current proposal has a long and tortured history. When the year-round rope proposal went before the commission, several commissioners stated that the beach should never be closed. One even joked that the wall should be blown up and then there would be no artificial beach to fight over. So let's recap how this slippery slope has evolved. The Seal Rock Reserve from the early 90s was located offshore. In the mid-90s, SeaWorld began releasing the rehabilitated seals at the children's pool instead of the previous 12 miles offshore that they used to release them. This is when the seal colony began the residency at the children's pool. Then a partial pumping season guideline rope was installed. And then that became a year-round guideline rope, and now here we are discussing a full beach closure for 5 months of the year. Do we really have to guess where this is going next? Should the community bow down and just accept that our ocean access rights are being taken away illegitimately by a negligent city who doesn't want to live up to its obligations to maintain the trust and at the beach in a safe manner? Seal watching is not ocean access. Has anyone validated the integrity of the supposed evidence and statistics that are introduced by the seal advocates? I'm pretty sure they haven't, and they are the ones fueling the city with this misinformation about what's happening on this beach. La Jolla is an urban environment with millions of visitors. Over 70% of La Jolla has recently been closed to fishing and other human activities as a result of the Marine Life Protection Act. The children's pool is smack dab in the middle of the remaining 30% that is left open. When does it all stop? Why is the city managing the sea lions at the cove differently than the harbor seals at the children's pool? Why is the city not considering closures that were implemented by the Department of Fish and Wildlife? And why aren't they working on a thoroughly thought out pinniped management plan? Why does the city refuse to do an environmental impact study? When NOAA, the federal agency responsible for management of the seals, says it isn't necessary and may not even be legal due to federal preemption, then certainly it would be crazy for the Coastal Commission to ignore such information and choose to side with the City Council's illegitimate wishes and close the beach anyway, right? Or are we going to allow the continuation of poorly thought through legislature that doesn't really address the issue and in fact perpetuates further problems? Seal activists and SeaWorld docents have already started shooing people off of South Casa and Shell Beach since the seals have started gathering and giving birth on these beaches as well. There have been advisory health warnings for years at beaches adjacent to the children's pool. The county health department has confirmed that these warnings are a direct result of the seals. When will this problem end? When will the city take responsibility and do something about it? And has anyone noticed that they stopped including these health warnings in the daily beach reports? I certainly have. The marine mammal population keeps expanding. Is it appropriate to encourage their colonization in an urban area? Scientific evidence states clearly that the seal population is thriving along La Jolla's coast, especially at the children's pool. The pup mortality rate is lower here than any other location found in actual nature. This is not the opinions of the activists. There is also a harbor seal rookery a short distance down the coast in Point Loma. The point is, there's no evidence supporting that children's pool beach is important for the well-being of the seals. In fact, the research shows quite the opposite. Each year, the number of pups born here has increased, and they have now begun, they've now begun occupying and pupping on the beaches to the north and south, as I've already said. The city's initial attempts claiming that ESHA was the only way is simply not true and was met with the Coastal Commission's advice to cease their current efforts and explore a different route. This hearing is about a bogus city plan wrapped in a different name, no longer calling children's pool environmentally sensitive habitat. They are now struggling to invent a reason to justify closing the beach for a species of animal that is thriving along our coast. We urge you not to support the city in its attempts to avoid our laws and its obligations, further sending the message that the only way to get things done in San Diego is to lie, manipulate, and force a vision upon the people with no respect to the law, the community input, or a healthy balance of nature. Let's set a better example for our children's future. I have a couple quotes from the federal government regarding seals at the children's pool taken from the Federal Register proposal for the new lifeguard station. This is in quotes. In California, approximately 400 to 600 harbor seal haul-out sites are distributed along the mainland and on offshore islands, including intertidal sandbars, rocky shores, and beaches. This is taken from Hannon, 1996, Lowry et al., 2008. Harbor seals are one of the most common and frequently observed marine mammals along the coastal environment. Pacific harbor seals haul out on nearby beaches and rocks, i.e. breakwater, ledges, rocks, haul-out areas, reef haul-out areas, and Casa Beach haul-out area, below the lifeguard tower at Children's Pool. It is one of the 3 known haul-out sites for this species in San Diego County. That again is in quotes. Because space is limited behind the breakwater at Children's Pool, it is unlikely that the number of seals would ever exceed 250 individuals, from Linder, 2011. These studies further indicate that seals are constantly moving along the coast, including to and from the offshore islands, and that there may be as many as 600 harbor seals using Children's Pool during a year, but certainly not all at one time. A complete pup count, as is done for other pinnipeds in California, is also not possible because harbor seals are precocial, with pups entering the water almost immediately after birth. Population size is estimated by counting the number of seals ashore during the peak haul-out period, May to July. The harbor seal is not listed under the ESA, and the California stock is not considered depletic or strategic under the MMPA. Pinnipeds at this site have likely adapted or become habituated to human presence at this site. Large numbers of people come to the site to view the pinnipeds at all hours, and they perform many activities that can disturb pinnipeds at other sites, but this often does not occur at the children's pool, as they seem to have habituated to human presence and associated noises. Again, taken from Hanan and Associates, 2004-2011. Additionally, this is all still in quotes. Additionally, pinnipeds utilizing the children's pool beach as a haul-out site are a very small portion of the species and/or stock populations, and any impacts would have little effect at the species and/or stock populations level.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments.
That'll do it. Thank you for your time.
My name is Tom Baker. I would like maybe eight to 10, if that's all right. I think
let's go with 8, and if you in the middle of a sentence, I'll give you a
If I
chance.
prove to be too eloquent, you can tell me to shut up. Okay?
There you go. Thank you.
All right. Well, Mr. Chairman and honorable commissioners, thank you for your time. I think we all appreciate the chance to express our views. I'm here on behalf of Power Scuba, which is a diving club with over 2,300 members. We have and continue to advocate for shared use of the facility. We have reviewed the staff recommendation, and we feel that the conclusions and analysis is not adequate. We feel that there are errors and misleading statements, and we feel there are also some omissions of important matters which have come out but are worth repeating. Surely this is not a minor change. This is a closure, and the way I look at it, that's on the far end of the spectrum, so I don't consider it balanced and I don't consider it a compromise. It's a closure. And given the Constitution and practice and tradition, it seems to me that the burden of proof is on the city in a serious way. Clearly that was recognized in the fall when the staff very kindly pointed out to the city that a proposal based on an ESHA designation wouldn't fly. And that no doubt spared the city some considerable embarrassment because it was not even close to a solid case. And I might just say in passing that that's the kind of negligence that's been emblematic of how the city has treated all things children's pool. But with that introduction, let me say a few things. So ESHA doesn't work, and at that time the city's attention was directed towards this clause 30230. There are a couple of criteria that seem important under that. I'm not a lawyer, so my understanding is no doubt limited and perhaps dim, but it seems to me that the case that this is a biologically significant site in terms of population dynamics and life history of harbor seals just cannot really be sustained. It's already been mentioned that as early as 1996, Hanan et al. Estimated that there were 400 to 600 haul-out sites in California. That statistic has been renewed and reaffirmed in his more recent publications. Seals are also well known to be migratory. They go around visiting, one of the things we love about them. They're very social. There are haul-out sites nearby it, the Coronados and Channel Islands. The seals, while we like them and have no problem with them being here, the population as a whole, it cannot be said that there's something special or unique about this one particular small site. So there's no biological uniqueness or special importance of this site. Under the law, it's irrelevant that the next one is in Ventura. That's not what's at stake. It's the population and their life histories, and we all want to protect that. Similarly, there's a requirement the city should show that it's of some economic, special, or unique value. They managed to show it's a tourist site, and that's fine. But when you talk about ecosystem services and things like that, you generally wind up with the good old American dollar. And there's been no demonstration and no quantification of this whatsoever. And let me just pause for a moment and digress to a highly analogous situation, which is the state of the leopard sharks at La Jolla Shores. That's also a tourist attraction, and you could almost, if I still had a good arm, you could almost hit it from the cove. It's very nearby. A few days ago, I made a small effort to see if I could actually establish some value for that. So I did some research online. There are 3 shops that offer these tours for people out of state. They charge around $45, some a little less, some a little more. They have X number of tours each day with a limit of so many people, and the season for this seems to last about 200 days. So I calculated, and I also threw in some very modest increment for the amount of money spent in restaurants and on buying gear from our local shops, and came up with a very rough estimate that it's probably close to $2 to $2.25 million a year, highly subject to revision. I make no claims to this, but I have a financial background, and it seems like at least a starting point. The point isn't to argue how much the value of the leopard sharks is, but to show that even that minimal effort by the city has not been made. There needs to be some due diligence, and it's striking by its absence. Therefore, I would say that the requirements of 30230 have not been met, and that means the burden of proof hasn't been satisfied. Let me say, too, that the finding that the proposal is not incompatible with the Coastal Act is not in itself a justification for going along with the city. There's some other things, too, errors of statement and things that are errors, to my mind, of omission. For example, we've talked a lot about the bacterial situation there. The closure really probably is not going to solve that. It's probably going to make it worse. Nobody has had a solution for that. The real solution would be for the city to fulfill its responsibilities and obligations and clean that whole place up in all ways. It probably is not going to really solve the problem of the hooligans either. We all deplore that kind of behavior. It's inconceivable to me that someone would behave like that by sitting on a seal and flashing lights in its face. But if true, that's a matter for enforcement. And if the city considers this a valuable tourist place, they should be willing to spend the money to make it so and make it safe and to arrest these people and prosecute them. I have no idea if any such arrests, prosecutions have occurred, but they should have. That's a matter of enforcement. And I don't think closure really solves it, especially in the summer season. Finally, just a few comments. There's been a lot of talk about disabled access. And regardless of whether things are ADA designated or not, the fact is the children's pool is by far the safest place for people who have disabilities or are children or are wounded veterans who don't have full use of their limbs. It is the safest place. There are periodically, as you all know, these beach hazard statements released by the National Weather Service. They apply to almost all our west-facing beaches, all of which are hazardous. The cove has big swells in at times and very steep stairs. So regardless of that, it is the best place for them. And that should be acknowledged, I think. The staff did, in its only substantive comment, refer to the fact that the staff ecologist has stated that the seals are probably better off if there's a closure. And that may well be true, but we don't really know. And if that's true, they would be even better off if the site were far away, far from humans in a remote part of the Channel Islands. But it isn't, and we don't advocate that any seals be moved. But the fact that the seals would be better off, once again, is not a ground for this closure. And you've heard about Ed Harris. He does deserve, and his plan deserve, due consideration. The city has studiously avoided considering it, and once again, that's a sign of negligence, not evidence for a closure. Thank you very much.
Make it quick. My name is Patrick Ahern. I'm a vice chair of the Community Planning Association. And we advise the city of San Diego on our community plan and issues dealing with La Jolla. This issue has been to us many, many times. Back in June, we voted on this proposed amendment to the La Jolla Community Plan, the local coastal plan, regarding the ESHA and to prohibit access during this time period we're all talking about. The motion was rejected by the by the community group, which represents this La Jolla. I'll mention 4 of the reasons that they did it. Many of those you've heard before, but I'd just like to reiterate the group's point of view. People in the community realize the pinniped population there, and I've been working on this for well over 15, almost 20 years, at the children's pool is quite stable, and it's likely to expand, and therefore the seals are not easily disturbed or degraded by human activities, nor are they endangered. I think we recognize that. Closing the beach, we believe, sets a dangerous precedent that we've heard about. They believe that this is the first step to closing the children's pool, closing the other pools, to closing other beaches in La Jolla, and really along the state of California, within populated areas. It's a dangerous precedent. 3, it's going to discourage people from donating to the public. This was donated in perpetuity many, many years ago for people and children to use the pool. If this is taken away, if this gift is not honored, people who may be considering donating land in the future will hear about this issue in La Jolla. They'll go, they took it away in La Jolla, they might take my gift away too. I don't think I'll be donating. And I don't think that's a good thing. The last point too is some people think that closing the beach is inevitable. That this is going to pass, it's inevitable, let's make it happen, and then the problem will be solved. That will not solve the problem. These people will come to you every year, and it's just going to continue if we break it up into 2 pieces and favor one side or the other. Back in 2012, the Community Planning Association voted to endorse the lifeguard plan. There's been a lot of talk about it, but there hasn't been any investigation as far as its application. We believe there is a way to apply it, to give these seals a year-round sanctuary to rest, to socialize, breed, and to care for their pups. This is what we call the lifeguard plan. It designates an enforceable protection for the seals on a majority of the beach in the winter and less in the summer, but it's enforceable, and that hasn't been the case that we've seen with all these videos. We believe it can happen. What we're asking you to do, to consider, is to give us 6 months to work through a viable plan, what we'll call the lifeguard plan or share the beach plan. And then once we have a viable plan that can be instituted for both the seals and the people, we'll monitor it and get back to you. I'll let you know how it's going. That's the intent here. We hope you won't close the beach. That's our hope, and you'll endorse this plan. Thank you so much for your time and really for your contribution of all the work you do.
Thank you. Minutes.
Thank you so much. First of all, thank you all for serving on the Coastal Commission. I have tried to safe beach access as I'm now going on my 25th year of it. And what I have to say is what I think are the facts. I have a slide thing, and it goes in 4 sections. Perfect. Thank you so much. The first fact is that not one person has ever been convicted of a violation at the children's pool. Number 2, no seal has ever been hurt at the children's pool. Number 3, this is a man-made pool. It's not a natural habitat. Number 4, it is my constitutional right in California to enter the ocean. Number 5, I am entitled to a clean beach, as we all are. Next slide. We are all entitled to clean water. I know that's what you all stand for. The seals have never needed this beach. The children, the handicapped, and the divers do need this beach, and the seals do not. We are now in the process of building a $4 million lifeguard tower at the pool to guard humans. Next slide. This project is not consistent with the Coastal Act with no beach access. There is only one handicapped access to the ocean in La Jolla, and it's at the children's pool. I know this because I write the beach accesses for the La Jolla Community Plan. The change in the trust only added seals. It did not take out swimmers, divers, and fishermen. Number 13, we are going to lose the beach next to the pool, as last year 19 baby seals were born there. Next slide. Thank you. Every community group in La Jolla for over almost 15 years has asked to keep the beach opened. Number 15, the seals do not need a closed beach. They grow in size every year. Number 16, San Diego taxpayers are going to have to pay for the lawsuit you are about to create. Please don't do this. And the last one is, you can stop all this madness by declaring the seals a nuisance and get federal permission to disperse them to the wild. I would suggest that you do this, and please, you are on the brink right now of changing California history. Thank you.
I'm Michael Costello. I believe I have 10 slips there.
Right, but how much time would you like?
12 minutes.
Okay.
And may I donate any remaining time to Dr. David Ballantyne?
No, I think we wouldn't provide that opportunity today. Thank you.
Right, gotcha. I'm going to try my lasers. Which do you like better? I think red's better. I am indeed Michael Costello from La Jolla. My strictly pertinent education is a bachelor's in biology, a master's in biology, and my scuba certification dates from 1968. You can do the arithmetic on age. Next slide, please. Here we have an aerial view of downtown La Jolla. What I'd like to say first is, as you're considering this application, could you please consider what are the goals of the application, who is served by the application, and what are the implications of those goals. Very quickly here, the laser dot, sorry audience, is on Casa Beach. The children's pool is right here. La Jolla Cove is right here. Devil's Slide area is right here. And the beach that I'm going to talk about around Devil's Slide is right here. Next slide, please. The area that we're talking about here, the subject area, is served by 2 freeways, 2 large urban arterials, traffic arterials. There are multiple hotels, many restaurants, including a Jack in the Box. There are drinking fountains around the children's pool, as the children's pool identified here. And there are restrooms around the children's pool. You'll notice that surrounding it, we have walkways going around probably 3/4 of the perimeter, making it just a perfect area for observing human-habituated marine life that comes ashore. But what I've described here has nothing to do with seals. It's seal activists. The benefit of this application is toward the seal activists. Next slide, please. If one is strictly concerned with a place where harbor seals can go give birth, a seal rookery, and not have any interaction with humans and not be habituated to humans, a place you would choose would be just to the east of here called Devil's Slide, and here is the Devil's Slide Beach. I'll show this to the audience as well. The Devil's Slide Beach out there is deep and broad and almost inaccessible to humans. Intrepid humans, when I was younger, I could go there. I don't know that I could get out of it now if I went there. But this is really the place, if you are interested in having some sort of a seal habitat, some sort of a seal birthing area, this is where you would go, not the middle of the major metropolitan area surrounded by millions or thousands of people. Next slide, please. Okay, next, let's get into the biology and the goals of this particular program. Here we have the red list from the International Union of Concerned Naturalists formed in 1949 to give governmental agencies such as yourself advice on what to do about wildlife issues. The first example I have here is the California condor. Notice that it is listed by the Red List as critically endangered. As well it should be, and it's kudos to whatever governmental agents got involved here, because had they not, we would be talking about condors being extinct. And as a biologist, I thank my predecessors and whoever your predecessors were that prevented this. What does the Red List say about park pigeons? Park pigeons are of least concern. Why? Because they're universally distributed and they're in very large numbers and their population is very, very healthy. Next slide, please. How does the Red List see harbor seals? Of least concern, same as the park pigeons. Why? There are very large numbers around the world, mostly distributed around the coastline of the northern hemisphere, in up to 500,000 harbor seals. California waters, we have some 30,000. In La Jolla waters, we have some 500. Now, this number of 500 is an increase of just a couple of dozen, which was a stable population until about the mid-1990s. They have increased 20-fold in numbers since then. According to the Red List designation here, according to the population increase that we're seeing, a veritable population explosion, a 20-fold increase in a few number of years does not indicate a population is in need of a rookery, a synthetic, human-protected rookery. The justification simply is not here. Go help the condors, please. But the harbor seals? Next slide, please. What are the implications of this? In biology, one of the things we say is that predators follow prey. This is true both geographically and numerically. Makes sense. If there's nothing to eat, the predators aren't there. If there is something to eat, the predators come in proportion to whatever dinner is available. Next slide, please. I have said 500 harbor seals. There are about 150 sea lions in the La Jolla waters, coming up with a total of about 650 pinnipeds in La Jolla waters. World-renowned shark expert Collier has said the reason we have great white sharks in our waters is because of that 650 pinnipeds. Tragically, the worst has happened off our coast. In 1968, a human was attacked and killed by a great white shark. So yes, there are implications. There are very serious implications here. And these are implications which you have the power to reverse. And it is critically important that you do so. Next slide, please. We like to say that Mother Nature has a balance. Here I have a teeter-totter. Sorry about that. But anyway, Mother Nature balances populations, habitat, quality of habitat, size of habitat, amount of food available. And what is going on in the ocean environment, the marine environment off our coast, when you have a 20-fold increase in pinnipeds feeding upon that? Not only the species themselves, but what about the other species which do feed upon those critters, the prey species? They have a right to exist as well, not just to be sardines to be gobbled up by some other species. But then again, there are other important species in the area that do feed on them. And this is a real tragedy of what's going on off our coast. Populations are generally balanced by predators. What has happened here is we have this gigantic city of San Diego and county of San Diego surrounding the children's pool, preventing terrestrial predators from getting in there and gobbling up easily available prey. This harbor seals could not, in their natural history, come onto open, exposed beaches because of terrestrial predators. They would be eaten in an instant. These harbor seals are virtually defenseless except when they run. Now, you could easily say, well, they wouldn't even be there because of terrestrial predators. And that's exactly the point. Without the city around the children's pool, harbor seals would never be there. Now, sadly enough, we are attracting dangerous predators to the harbor seals. Next slide, please. I mentioned again that there are some 500 harbor seals in La Jolla waters. Here on the beach, you see about 80, indicating that in La Jolla waters, they're going to different beaches. They do move around a great deal in these local waters. If they did not have this beach, they could and they would go elsewhere. But now they are protected on this beach. They feel very comfortable around humans. I have never seen wild animals. I've been to the Antarctic and had the pleasure of working with some Weddell seals, but this is really phenomenal. These are tame seals. They are not wild seals. They are not Mother Nature's seals. They are City of San Diego and California Coastal Commission seals, and you ought to be ashamed of that. What's happened here is this population moves around, goes to other beaches. Next slide, please. This is the other side of that seawall. This is South Casa Beach. Harbor seals are giving birth here. Whatever justification you might have for closing the children's pool, you will also have to apply to South Casa Beach. It's happening there. It isn't that it is speculation. It is not theory. For the past 2 years now, probably about 30, maybe more, pups have been born there. Last slide, please. This is the revered La Jolla Cove, the icon of the jewel of La Jolla. These are California sea lions. If you close the children's pool, you're going to have to close our cove as well. There's no justification for treating one marine mammal differently than the other. There's no justification for saying one animal needs a protected breeding site while the other does not. And the very last slide, please. Oh, excuse me, sir. Very last slide. Remember the old 1970s saying, it is not nice to mess with Mother Nature. Well, when you do start messing with Mother Nature, all the ameliorations just start adding up and adding up. And please don't do that. Please refuse this permit application. Please send it back to the City of San Diego to do the right thing, to do some proper studies. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, my name is Joel Tracy. I am a lifelong native San Diegan. I'm also a former ocean lifeguard here in the City of San Diego from 1990 to 1996. I've also been a scuba instructor since the 1992 from UCSD. There have been a number of points that were made by the city earlier by Ms. Lemetico and another person from the city. They seem to feed a bunch of false information out. A couple of things, I didn't even come to speak about these particular points, but they made some inaccurate statements I want to address. First about the handicap ramp, that it really isn't a handicap ramp, never was intended for that. It's completely false. In 1994, I was a lifeguard at that particular lifeguard station, working with Ron Trent and Sergeant Troy Keach. As a junior guard, well, a less senior guard, one of my jobs was to actually help people in wheelchairs down those ramps to access the water. So it absolutely has had that purpose. Recognized by the city, it was part of our training. It was something we did as a regular part of our job. Secondary point, something about beach access being only 2 minutes away. Even driving code 3, it takes us more than 2 minutes to get all the way from there over to La Jolla Shores. La Jolla Shores and all the other beaches in San Diego that have handicap access are flat beaches. This is the only beach access in the rocks area of La Jolla, where a person that has a wheelchair can make access to the beach. Other point. Oh, on the point of Phoca vitulina, which is the type of seal we're talking about here. From a genetic standpoint, they have absolutely no issues at all. Their health of their population is better than it has been since 1994. In 1994, the only artificial thing that happened is the city council came to us and said, as lifeguards, we need you when the seals come onto the beach to go down and put a rope up and keep people from making contact with the seals. Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe I have 3 cards ceded to me.
I didn't see any cards ceded to you. It was
really all right. Well, that's enlightening.
No cards.
How much time do I have?
2 minutes.
Thank you, sir. All right, my name is Volker Ho, and I'm president of the Council of Divers. We represent approximately 3,000 or so scuba divers located in San Diego County. I'm also on the board of the Watermen's Alliance, which is a statewide freediving and spearfishing advocacy group. So we have representatives throughout the state. Also, many of my recreational fishing colleagues are sympathetic with our interests in this matter. Before I get to my main points, I had an interesting little conversation on a consulting gig about a year ago with the governor of Hawaii. He says, "Oh, you're in San Diego. Oh, you have to deal with children's pool." And I was shocked. He goes, "Everybody in the entire country knows about children's pool, and they're really glad it's not in their county or their state." So it was enlightening for me, so I'm glad you guys are hearing this, and I hope you make the right decision. Back to my main points. Okay, here we are, yet again, talking about children's pool. This has been a long, tortured soap opera that ends in the ultimate closure of all beach access in La Jolla. Nobody in this room truly believes this is a final solution. This, as one of the city council members said it, this is the next step in the closure process. So, either we can stop the dance now, or we can continue. So we start off with an informal rope, to a seasonal advisory rope, to a Filner closure, to now we've got a seasonal permanent rope asking for your endorsement of this. These seals are not isolated. They don't just live on children's pool. They live south of there and north of there. You've seen plenty of video footage from the seal advocates saying such. So I implore you, do not close a children's pool because it's outside of a marine protected area.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Okay,
As in
Portia?
Shakespeare. Portia
you.
Wadsworth. I have been a resident of La Jolla for 51 years, and I've seen it all. Obviously, my children played tide pools and loved the children's beach. I'm very unhappy to see it's not Casa Beach anymore. As of 80 years ago, it is now officially Children's Pool. And I would hope that people refer to it as the Children's Pool because it's very unique and very beautiful, and I hope it can stay that way. I don't want to be redundant as far as repeating things that very learned speakers have said. Let's see, I'm sorry. Glasses on. It is a not endangered species, and I think that was very important. This pupping season seems to be so all-important, but seals they bear young just like we do anywhere. It doesn't have to be in the children's pool. They can go outside, as Mike was just saying, and move on and have their pups in a natural environment, which is the ocean, in my opinion. This is where they should raise their young. And so I say no closure, and certainly no ropes, barriers, keep out. You know, I feel I'm a La Jolla resident, I pay taxes. I don't like being told that I can't do this and I can't do that. And the seals are taking precedence over the children. These are the children that should be using this pool. And I'll leave you with that in mind. There is one more thing. This is half a minute. This is a letter that was received from a resident with deep roots like I do in La Jolla. Also at issue is the city.
I'm sorry, your time will be up. You can submit the letter if you'd like to the staff. But thank you. And is Phyllis
against the closure?
Minical here? Okay. Cindy. Phyllis what?
Phyllis had to leave, so I've incorporated some of her remarks into mine, and I'm Cindy. 2 minutes, please. Cindy Greatrex. I'm next to
Oh,
the
okay,
list
great.
after
Thank
Phyllis
you.
Minnick.
Yep,
Ms.
please,
Minnick
go
had to
ahead.
leave, so I incorporated a few of her remarks into my
Just
speech. I'm looking for two.
two.
Thank you. Chair and Commissioners, in La Jolla, we have a closely held belief that the wishes of our forebearers are to be respected and honored. This belief is reflected in compliance on how we build, maintain, and preserve. Local philanthropist Ellen Browning Scripps paid for the seawall project in order to create a children's pool, a place where children could play and swim that would be protected from the waves coming on shore. Ms. Scripps gave the completed project to the City of San Diego. The gift was confirmed by an act of the legislature signed by the governor in 1931, which says that said lands should be devoted exclusively to public park, bathing pool for children, parkway, highway, playground, and recreational purposes, while specifying that the area should remain available for fishing. Today in your hands is the very heart of the California Coastal Commission's mission to protect the California coast and ocean for prudent use by current and future generations. This today is a request to retain an open beach, the children's pool, fully accessible to man and beast in the best interest and health of both. In support of open access to our beaches and the ocean, California has 3 organizations to protect and support coastal access. In addition to the California Coastal Commission's mission to protect coast and ocean for current and future generations of people, there's also the California Coastal Conservancy, which uses their resources to purchase, protect, restore, and enhance coastal resources, and to protect access to the shore, helping people get to the coast and bay shores by building trails and stairways. Then the California Coastal Trail, which is a network of public trails for walkers, bikers, equestrians, wheelchair riders, and others along the 1,200-mile California coastline. This is an expression for the desire for preservation and responsible access. Lastly, the City of San Diego's local community plan, known as the LCP, assures coastal access at all times in accord with federal, state, and local land use policies as stated on a prominent sign at the children's pool bearing the city logo. A majority of members in La Jolla's 3 citizen action groups have voted to deny full or partial beach closures and to keep the children's pool open to humans.
Thank you.
These groups are the CPA, Parks and Beaches, and Town Council. Thank you very much.
Oh, yes.
How many friends do I have?
So far, you've got yourself to look after.
Doesn't surprise me. Okay, City of San Diego wants to cut you a deal. The deal is you let us take a beach out of its local coastal plan so that anything we do will never be a violation, and this will all go away. You're tired of this. You don't want it anymore. They don't want it anymore. Let us just smash it and bury it. And you have nothing to lose. Nobody can criticize you. And the staff has arranged so that when this does hit the courts, your legal fees will be paid by the city. Nothing to lose except the ability to control beaches in California, because this is a new loophole in the Coastal Act. If you rule that 302.30 is absolute, it's got a must in it. Any resource must be protected. And if you rule that that is stronger than public access requirements from the Constitution, which you'll be doing, then any community can close a troublesome beach by finding a resource, like a sea lion, and saying, oh, public access has to be removed from this area because there's a disturbance. Tide pools. Can't let people in tide pools anymore because their public access rights are subservient to protecting a resource from disturbance. And there's no question. They don't have to prove it. So that's what you have to lose.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nora Wilcox. I live in La Jolla. The pool was built for the children, so let's keep it that way year-round. I love the children's pool. Please, please, please help the children. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary Ellen Morgan had to leave. Can I read her short letter? It's not her letter. It's from Parks and Beaches.
Had you put in a card for yourself?
Yes, and I don't believe it was used.
Okay. And your name?
My name is Marie Hunricks. Dear Commissioners, La Jolla Parks and Beaches is a citizen advisory group designated to provide public input and make recommendations to the City of San Diego's Park and Recreation Department. We are made up of users of La Jolla area parks and representative members of the La Jolla community. La Jolla Parks and Beaches continues to support the present condition of shared use of children's pool by humans and marine animals. Our organization therefore opposes the subject action that would result in seasonal closure of the beach to the public. This position was voted on at our April 2010 meeting unanimously. Sincerely, Dan Allen, President of La Jolla Parks and Beaches.
Thank you.
My name is David Valentine. I've lived in La Jolla since 1968. I've been a property owner there since 1976, and I have a doctorate in marine biology from the University of California, San Diego. How do I get this? Did I print this thing? Next slide. Okay. This is the section of the law that the San Diego is trying to avoid by, go to the next slide, by applying section 2330. Specifically, that section says you must have specific protection shall be given to areas of special concern and special biological areas, and also with significance, with economic significance. Sorry. Next slide. What about the seals? That's the only thing biologically mentioned here. In 1999, James Leckie wrote a letter to the city council saying that, that the seals weren't special, they didn't require any special considerations. He also said that you could remove the seals by using a section of the law. The next time he came up, he gave a speech in front of the San Diego City Council in 2004, and in his replacement at the NIMS in 2014 in June said that the seals were not threatened, and in fact they could be removed, and he was not in favor of closing the children's pool to seals. And next slide. And your own ecologist, your own staff ecologist, said that no matter what you people did, it didn't make any difference to the seal population as a whole. And next, as far as the ecology of the seals pool is concerned, there's been a marine protected area between. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I turned in a card and I've been waiting for my name and haven't heard it. My name is Mark Brown and I'm a resident of San Diego, and I've appeared before your group before. I've been listening to this for a long time. I was involved in one of the very first incidences of people going on to that beach with seals way back when. I'm a local body surfer, ex-lifeguard for the city, work children's pool and the Cove. I've been there at that beach for 37 years. I love it. I surf there 5-6 days a week, utilize it that many times a week, and I have been doing that for 30 plus years. I love that place. I love all those beaches. But you know what? That sand is 2.5 feet of toxic waste. You wouldn't want any of your children to ever kneel in that sand, ever, because of the danger. That's a toxic waste dump for 2.5 feet down. And that's what's so terrible about this, because we've lost a beach. Either give it to the seals completely, mark it off as a super site, because it is 2.5 feet down. I've dug into it. It's terrible, and it's dangerous for humans. Either give it all to the seals, or you clean it up and do it right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're going to have a mystery guest. Oh, excellent. All right. Welcome, and please start by stating your name.
Kale Aspinlighter. Please save children's pool because people with broken legs need a ramp. I cannot swim and surf. It is for children and me. Thank you. Kale Aspinlighter, 5 years old.
Thank you, Kale.